don't officially know when summer started or if it even like officially started, but it's hot, so I'm calling it summer. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is October. If you're new around here, welcome. If not, welcome back. This is Nerd Boy Reads channel, which I talk about the things that I've been reading and or want to read. And today we're going to do a video, a short little quick video about the books that I recommend for summer. Last year I did a books that give me fall vibes video, and I planned on doing a books that give me winter vibes video, but then I took that really long hiatus, unannounced hiatus, because my life was falling apart and I never got around to it. So I should have did a spring one, but again, I took some short hiatuses, and so I'm gonna get back on track with a summer video. I have about 6 books right here, one of which I haven't read, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with that one. I heard a few things about this book. I popped around on Bookstagram and I think YouTube a couple times, but I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about it, which would normally give people a bad impression of the book if you hadn't heard a lot of hype about it, but I don't care about hype. I saw it around, I thought it was interesting, so I picked it up, and I think it encompasses a lot of good summer vibes. And the book I'm talking about is Black Tide by Casey Jones. This is about 2 people who meet on a beach during a meteor shower, have a one-night stand, and wake up the next day to find out that the apocalypse has happened. Like I said, I haven't read this book, so I can't give a full synopsis, a full summary, a full extent of my thoughts about this book because I haven't read it. So as soon as I do read it, I will tell you, probably in another one of my quarterly wrap-ups, but I do plan on getting to this soon, so you may hear about it in like September era, because that's when the next 3 months will be, and I'll tell you all about it because it sounds interesting. It's pretty short, so it could be like a nice beach read, because apparently I have some vacations coming up, so I can blast through this on the beach and I can tell you all how it feels to read a book about the world ending on a beach. Who knows? These next books, the next 5 books, are the books that I have read myself, so I can give you a bit more detail about them. This first one may be kind of a stretch because there's nothing specifically that says it happens in the summer, but based on all the information that we are given in this book, I can assume that it's summer or it's a holiday, but either way, it's not really clear about when this book was set. And I am talking about The Long Walk by Stephen King. This is about a boy who signs up for the annual Long Walk, a competition in which 100 boys sign up to walk as long as they can at a brisk 4 miles per hour, no matter the circumstances. Once you start, you cannot stop, you can't slow down. If you have to use the bathroom, you have to figure it out. You get 3 warnings and then you are promptly ejected from the competition. And if you survive the competition, then you can get, the rumor has it that you can get whatever your heart's desire. This is more of a psychological horror. This is fun. This is one of my favorite Stephen King books, and of which I've only read 4. You can see them right here. I have given away one of them. I gave away The Outsider because that book had me in the beginning and then it lost me in the middle, but this one kept me hooked all the way through. Something about the psychological slow torture of just walking, something that you do, well, a majority of us do every single day, just walking, and you have to be forced to continue to walk at 4 miles an hour, no matter if you're hungry, if you're thirsty, if you have to use the bathroom, if you get a cramp, if you are going through treacherous weather, the road's gone up ahead, doesn't matter, you will find a way and you will walk. Some issues with a lot of Stephen King books, especially with how that he writes women, but that's no surprise. I think everyone who reads Stephen King has a problem with how he portrays women characters. There's a bit of racist language, such as use of the N-word near the middle of the book, so be aware about that. But other than that, the slow descent of watching all of these boys slowly lose their minds because of their need to just keep walking no matter the circumstances, and seeing them all kind of either band together to help each other as much as they can to keep going no matter what, or to kind of sabotage the other person to make it sure that they can get ahead and get the prize themselves. This has a classic Stephen King ending. I think that's what we can call it, because a lot of Stephen King's endings are open-ended, so spoilers for that. But this is by far one of my favorites. There's no monster of the week, there's no gruesome torture, there's no Indian curses. It's just boys versus the government versus themselves walking, and it is brutal. I do love it, but it is kind of wild sometimes, so be prepared for that. But yeah, definitely a summer read. I don't know why, it just gives off summer vibes. Okay, if that last one was a stretch, then this one is definitely a stretch. I don't think a lot of people have heard of this next one, but when I read it, it stuck with me. It is one of my favorite young adult horror disaster books of all time. I haven't read a lot. I picked this one up on a whim. It's a duology. It's one of my favorites, and I need to reread it, and I need more people to read it because no one's talked about it ever. I haven't checked the Goodreads. I don't plan on it, but it definitely gives off summer vibes because of some of the elements involved in it. Talking about H2O by Virginia Burgeon. Yeah, Virginia Burgeon. This is about all of a sudden, one day, water can kill you. No warning, it like burns you from the inside out. If it gets on your skin, it melts you. So imagine what that does on the insides. No one knows why. It just turns lethal. This, if you liked Dry by Neal Shusterman, I suggest you give this a try because I feel like this is what Dry was trying to be, but Dry didn't have any repercussions. There was no real, in my opinion, there was no real oomph behind Dry. Everything worked out too neatly despite the fact that this was supposed to be a disaster book. This has consequences. This has major character deaths. This really holds the feeling that anyone can die at any second. This is not violent, not necessarily gory, but just sometimes listening and reading the stuff that happens when the people drink the water is upsetting. I talked about this book so long after I read it because it just stuck with me, and I still think about bits of it even though it's been so long since I've read this. I think I read this in high school and I graduated college like 2-3 years ago, so that should tell you where I am. But yeah, I highly recommend it because it does revolve a lot about water sources, and as you know, in the summer, and even in general, you should be trying to stay hydrated, but suddenly, in the middle of like summer, in the middle of the heat, not being able to survive, but not being able to drink water to survive, and being worried that if you step in a puddle after a rainstorm, or getting dripped on by an umbrella, that you can melt yourself and die, is just upsetting in a visceral way. And there's a lot of traveling because you're trying to get from one place to another, so it's like a road trip. Trying to find someone to help you, someone who sympathizes with you, someone to get you the water that you need, to spare a bottle that you had before everything got contaminated and can kill you, is just insane. Plus, it just gives off good summer vibes. I don't know why. It's something I would reread in summer. It's fantastic. It's brutal in a young adult way, like before young adult meant like everything is basically adults, but whatever. It's fun, it's a good read, it is a duology. I will spoil the ending for you if you want. If you don't, skip ahead. But the ending of this duology is a bit out there. I do enjoy it. I will reread it when I get my insanely long TBR down some. It is a bit out there, but not in a way that ruins the book entirely. So if you do go in there, be warned about that if you wanted to. If you didn't want to hear about the ending, it's over now. You can stop. You're fine. But yeah, H2O by Virginia Burgeon. Read it. Even if you don't think it fits for summer, I still recommend you read it if you like Dry by Neal Shusterman. Because like I said, this did it, but better. Yes, it is another day. I had to stop because I went out and saw Spider-Verse for the third time with the besties, so we're just gonna keep on rolling. I have 3 more books to talk about. You might hear some noises in the background because I have my window open because it's really hot. My house doesn't have AC, so you're just gonna hear a bunch of like car noises, wind noises, nature noises probably outside. I don't know if it's picking up, but you're probably gonna hear them. We're just gonna roll right on into the next book. If the last book I believe I talked about was H2O and The Long Walk, if those were stretches, this may not be so much simply because of the cover and the vibe. This is one of my new favorite series. I picked each one up every time they came out, as soon as they came out, because it's young adult, so even though they're hardback, they're not that much. I can justify spending $18 on a hardback book, especially if I get the discounts from the stores I pick them up at, so it's not that big a deal. But this one is more of a late spring, early summer read, I would say. It's a kind of cozy mystery, something to just shut your brain off. It's a really quick read. It's fun, it's quick, you can just lay around, read it on the beach, read it in the house, on the porch, with some tea, or your Starbucks drink of your choice, whatever. It's really nice, it's really cute. I'm talking about the Jane Austen Murder Mystery series by Tazara Price. I am currently holding up Pride and Premeditation. This is the first one. This is a Pride and Prejudice Jane Austen retelling in which the main character Lizzie tries to be a attorney at her father's company, and Mr. Darcy is her academic rival, I would say. I would never call this like an enemies to lovers, because if they're not trying to kill each other in the beginning of the book, they're not really enemies, so they're more like rivals in a sense. Either way, this one is really sweet. I enjoy the way that Tazara Price characterizes all of the Jane Austen characters. There's two more in this series. I have the second one up on my shelf, which is Sense and Second Degree Murder, and the most recent one, Manslaughter Apart, came out recently. I just haven't had a chance to buy it because it's not in any of the stores that I frequent, so I'm probably gonna have to travel slightly out of the way to get it, but I will pick it up because it's very good. The series is great. I enjoy the way, like I said, I enjoy the way that she characterizes the characters. I enjoy her retelling. Her writing style makes everything really fast-paced. All of the relationships that she writes about are fairly believable. I especially enjoy how she portrays siblings, and I enjoy how she writes romance. It's not exactly a slow burn because it only happens in one book, but it's still a really sweet romance. All of the romances that I've read are really sweet from her, and if she ever comes out with more stuff, I'm probably going to pick them up as well. But for now, I'm really enjoying the Jane Austen Murder Mystery series. As soon as I get my hands on Manslaughter Park, I'm probably going to end up reading it on the back porch like I've started doing recently because the weather is nice and sometimes you just gotta sit outside and read. But yeah, good summer vibes with these one. The penultimate book that I have is probably a little bit of a stretch, but I'm simply picking it up off of the atmosphere, the vibes, and the setting. And it feels pretty summery. I think it is set in summer because it never mentions that the kids are in school, and one of the focal characters is a child character who does attend high school, even though he's not the main people we are following. It's still well known that he is a minor, and since he is out, I'm assuming that it's set in summer. And then the area around it feels very summery. It's a desert, it's hot, it's almost like a beach, but with none of the benefits of being a beach, like water, but still, it gives off good summer vibes, and I'm talking about the Welcome to Night Vale books, specifically Welcome to Night Vale. This is about two characters who meet and try to solve a mystery of what is King City, I believe it is? Yes, King City. This book is fantastic. It's slightly horrifying, slightly sci-fi. It's very conspiracy theory based. If you've listened to the podcast, you know exactly what it means. Government watches you, all of that stuff. It's very fun. It's very quick. The characters are phenomenal. I love how all of the characters are fleshed out. We really get to know all of the characters' wants, the needs, the reasons they make the decisions they do. They get to make mistakes and have consequences to their mistakes, and then they have to actually go through the motions of fixing the mistakes before they are forgiven. Welcome to Night Vale is phenomenal. I love the podcast. I have all of the books. I have all of the script books. I have all the books that they've written, and I just enjoy the way that the characters come to life. I enjoy seeing more of the characters not specifically focused on in the podcast get to shine in their own little stories. Like Cecil and Carlos do get mentioned, and they do have like brief cameos, but we mostly follow some more citizens of Night Vale, which really helps bring the town to life. And if you like the podcast, I'm pretty sure you've already read the books. If not, I highly recommend it. And even if you don't listen to the podcast, Welcome to Night Vale is very accessible. Like, you don't need to know anything that's going on in the podcast to get into the books, especially the next two, which are It Devours and The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home. She gets her own story, and that has literally nothing to do with Night Vale until the very end, which I think is a fun take on the tale of Night Vale and the town of Night Vale, and I highly recommend it. If you go back in one of my previous videos, you'll see that I did a full review of It Devours, because I read that, I believe, last summer, right before my hiatus, so I went on a long tangent about why I love Welcome to Night Vale so much. It holds a very deep, special place in my heart, even though I'm not really caught up. I do need to catch up to the podcast, but I do remember the books very clearly, and I highly recommend them if you want just a fun little thing to bring, like camping or on a road trip. If you need some time, if you need something to do on a road trip, you can either listen to the podcast or you can break out the book. It's a solidly length book, but it reads really fast. It's about like 400 or so pages, but it reads really fast, especially if you like already know a lot of the voices that they have for Night Vale. But even then, if you make up your own voices for the characters, which a lot of people do, then you'll understand that it's really nice to get involved in, and it's just great. I do enjoy Welcome to Night Vale. I'm a little biased, but I do believe that if you want a good story, good characters, good representation of the LGBT community, it's very diverse, Welcome to Night Vale. So if you're looking for just a fun little romp, try out Night Vale. And then the last book that I have to show you is more of a summer vibe. It's about a road trip. A lot of people for summer like to take gap years and or breaks between colleges, summer vacations, and go on road trips. I'm not one of those people, but I kind of am. It depends on the mood. I want to travel more, but reading this book really gave me the traveling experience. You can tell that the author of this book really loved the places that he was portraying, and he did it in a very loving manner, even though the book is kind of a horror. I'm talking about Alice Isn't Dead by Joseph Fink. He is one of the creators of Night Vale, yes, so it's probably a cheat, but this isn't connected to Welcome to Night Vale at all. In fact, Alice Isn't Dead has its own podcast and its own book, so I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but I have read the book, and the book is phenomenal. It tackles topics such as like abandonment, misogyny, cycles of violence and how to break them. It's very fun. And it does it in a road trip setting. I should probably tell you what it's about. Alice Isn't Dead is about a woman who believes that her wife is dead until she sees her on the local news, and then she becomes a cross-country trucker to try to track down her wife Alice, who she believed was dead. And it's phenomenal. I love this book. This is another book that I did a review about earlier in my channel, where I did rant about this book as well, because it is phenomenal. I guess it's rave. Rant and rave are two different things on BookTube. I raved about this book because it's phenomenal. It got into my head. I could not stop thinking about it, and even then there are some scenes in this book that hold me and that live in my head rent-free, both for good and bad reasons, because some of the parts in this book are kind of visceral. It gets kind of violent at the end, but mostly it's about this woman trying to find her wife, and she mostly goes on a road trip to do it, so it really gets those road trip vibes, the heat, the trying to plan, the snacking on road trip foods and stopping at gas stations and all the stuff, especially the tension that comes with traveling alone as a woman across country. It deals with that very well, and I just love this book so much. I might do a reread after I get at least half the books off of my TBR, which probably isn't going to happen for a while, so I'm going to have to put this off, but I do recommend you pick it up if you want a more, I can't even say chill because it's classified as a horror, and I can see why, but it leans more into sci-fi in some places, like all the Welcome to Night Vale books and Night Vale adjacent books. So keep that in mind. There is some things that you should probably look for trigger warnings for. I think that's for all of these books. Definitely, I'm always an advocate for looking up trigger warnings, so if you are interested in any of the books I mentioned, but especially this one, do look up the trigger warnings, take care of yourselves, and read what you want. But I do recommend you pick this up, especially on a road trip, maybe when you're having a barbecue, maybe when you're sitting on the porch. I don't know what people do during the summer. I just started sitting on the porch, but I do recommend reading this if you get a moment and want to expand your horizons to what more is out there, you know? Highly recommend it. And then I have a couple that I'm just going to rapid fire at you. The Troop by Nick Cutter. That is about a group of Boy Scouts who go on an island and get infected by a parasite that make you want to eat everything. Another book by Nick Cutter that I am halfway through, but I'm glad I'm reading it during summer, is Little Heaven. It is about a woman who hires 3 mercenaries to help get her nephew out of a cult, and it's set in the middle of the desert, so much like the Welcome to Night Vale one. The desert vibes, the heat vibes, the claustrophobia, the not wanting to do much because of the heat, all that good stuff. But definitely look up the warnings for both Nick Cutter books, because both of those are some of the most graphic on the list, I would say. My Best Friend's Exorcism is definitely something that you should read during the summer. A movie just came out. If you like I haven't seen the movie, but I hear that there are a couple changes that they made to the movie from the book. So maybe if you watch the movie, you want to read the book. Maybe if you read the book, you want to watch the movie. I don't know. But it's about 2 girls who, during a trip to a watering hole, a swimming hole in summer, her a best friend gets possessed, and it just goes through the motions of trying to figure out how to unpossess her. It's super fun. It's definitely like a more of a teen leaning horror movie book thing. Definitely good summer, shut your brain off and just get involved in it, you know? And after taking one last quick glance at my shelves, I can say that that is probably all I got for you right now. Let me know if you want me to do a manga one of these. I can probably pull out I was looking at my manga shelves, which are just over on this side, and I did see some manga that I could recommend for summer, but I think the next video I am going to be recording is my quarterly wrap-up. I forget where I left off, so I'm going to have to look at my last video and figure out where I left off, and then I will let you know what I read, my thoughts, and I'm going to try to check in to let you know that I am still reading. I just haven't been telling you about it. So that's been the video. Leave a like, leave a comment, be sure to subscribe. If you pick up any of these books, let me know. If you've already read some of these books, let me know. Yeah, that's about all I got for you. This has been the video. I've been October. This has been Nerd Boy Reads. I hope you liked this video, and I will definitely see you in the next one. Goodbye.